Okay, we're recording. Hello, I want to welcome all of our viewers to Ask Doctor Shana. And today is Friday, July 3rd, the day before our uh, day of celebration for independence. And Dr. Shana, what are we going to be speaking about today?
I plan to speak about what we need to do to have less rapid escalation in cases of coronavirus. Um, there are several states, apparently 19 counties in California, the state of Texas, the state of Florida, which have had extraordinary increases in the number of cases of coronavirus and the number of hospitalizations. There are some parts of the country where people are worried that they won't have the hospital beds to be able to accommodate all these new cases. And I'm going to suggest that in this country in general, we don't have much of a perception of the public good in the abstract. What I mean is, Americans are very kind and very generous to their families, their co-workers, their friends, people they know. But we have so much of a broad streak of rugged individualism that that takes over other things, and we don't have much a perception of the public good towards people that are at some distance that we don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but we know they're there. Um,
Okay, hold on just one second. I just want to make sure. Okay. The audio usually in my headphones is a lot louder, but I just wanted to make sure we had audio. Okay, I can edit that. Um, so that brings up a really good point, and I've heard some talk on the news radio regarding this issue and how the U.S. Has a cultural bias towards this rugged individualism, and other countries such as China, um, they're for the greater good.
yes, and I think this is a time when we all need, in spite of the president saying that he will never wear a face mask, everybody else needs to every time they go out of the house. Not because it will protect the wearer, not because it will protect their neighbor in the next apartment, but because in the aggregate, if we all do it, it will protect many people from getting a new case of coronavirus. We also need to practice social distancing. It has been said, and I can't verify whether this is true or not, but when President Trump had a meeting of 75,000 people, uh, he was electioneering in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all the seats, every other seat had a little sticker on it which said, please don't sit in this seat. Sit in the seats on either side of it. We are trying to practice some social distancing to prevent some of ourselves from getting coronavirus. Well, Mr. Trump apparently ordered his campaign staffers to go out and strip off all these little stickers so that the people not being given any hints sat right next to each other. And I would be very curious as to how many of them within a couple of weeks contracted coronavirus.
Yeah.
I don't know what Mr. Trump has against sitting with one empty seat between you and the next person. That doesn't mean they couldn't come to the rally. It doesn't mean they couldn't hear what he had to say. But doing it packed in like sardines, as it were, I would imagine that at least some of those people may have contracted coronavirus at that meeting.
Was this just recently, or was this a couple of weeks ago?
The actual meeting was a couple of weeks ago.
And Houston and Texas has had a huge spike in cases.
Yes. So I don't know where in Texas the rally was held. But if it's any distance, any proximity toward where the rally was held, I would think some of those people attended the rally. And Mr. Trump has the illusion that he will never catch it and people close to him will never catch it. And he said at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic that it was all a hoax. I have an MD and a doctorate in public health, and I'm not the president. I don't have the power that he does, but I will say to you, it is not a hoax. There have been about 130,000 deaths in the U.S. so far, and we're not done. So if you go to any meetings, I hope I could count on my viewers to say we should sit one seat apart from each other. Because that is what would be conducive to the public good. And if people are still going in for their rugged individualism, the thing about coronavirus is that we are not immune to it as a population. It is not a bug that we have evolved with over a long time. It's not like measles, for example. If a child gets measles because they haven't been vaccinated or for whatever other reason, they probably will be covered in spots for a few days. They'll have a low grade fever and they will recover. Other populations which did not evolve for millennia with measles, such as the Eskimos and such as many African populations, are decimated by this. They die in great numbers because their immune systems are not used to it and they don't have defenses against it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, the coronavirus was common among bats, but has never before been common among humans, which is why all over the world people are susceptible to it. And it really behooves us always to go outside of the house with a mask on, always to sit with a seat between us and the next person at whatever meeting we are. And I would be delighted if one of my viewers would speak up at one of Trump's rallies and say, look, we have to sit at some distance from each other because it probably would save the lives of several people at that rally if we did that.
Mm-hmm.
Are we so hard-hearted that we don't care two hoots for the life of the person next to us, and we can't say, let's sit a seat apart? Now, I know that would diminish the capacity of whatever meeting area we had, and Mr. Trump's rally that I'm talking about was attended by 75,000, and I'm not at all sure that he would have been pleased if there were only 37,500 attending his meeting. But to ignore public health risks as he did is it's not neighborly. It's not the way I think of Americans as a generous, kind, compassionate people.
Mm-hmm.
If you could move one seat over and save several lives, would you not do it? And the reason that public health experts talk about social distancing is to try and prevent transmission of the bug. They don't usually tell people to practice social distancing, and they don't usually say wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Now, if you don't have a second hand on your watch, I can tell you that if you sing happy birthday twice in your head, that's about, at the usual speed, that's about 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that you wish other people would do for you, and more other people would do for you if you do it for them. If it becomes normal behavior to consider transmission of a potentially lethal bug.
Mm-hmm.
There are those who recover, and I'm very glad of that. But the elderly, for example, grandma, grandpa, the widow who is a little older than, who's past working age, retirees, we don't want them all to die. So let's make a little effort to keep them in this world.
And it takes so little effort. It really does.
Yes. Having a face mask on. There are face masks available now. I see the advertisements on TV for $1. Many communities give away face masks. Apparently, at this 75,000 attended rally of President Trump's, there were people at every entrance who offered a free mask to people who walked in without masks.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who were walking in without masks gestured them away. I don't understand why a person would refuse protection, and it's not for yourself, it's protection for the other person, whoever that other person might be. And that's why I say we need to have a perception of what is good for the public at large. And ever since they said we should all be wearing face masks, I am not seen on the street with my nose and my mouth uncovered. It's just a matter of politeness. I have no sign as of this moment that I have ever had coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
But out of consideration for other people, if I did, because we still do not know what percentage of the population can carry coronavirus and yet be symptom-free, and yet transmit it to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I always put my face mask on.
Mm-hmm.
And I have cloth face masks which can be laundered. That's in order not to be spending a lot of money on face masks which I have to throw away each time.
I think that's smart. I use a bandana myself.
But the point is, you don't go out in public with your nose and your mouth showing, uncovered. I also know, as a person, as I said a minute ago, with a doctorate in public health, that it is expected by the public health community that we may have a series of pandemics of different bugs. This is because of two things. Number one, the human race is constantly encroaching on the natural habitat of creatures like bugs, like bats, uh, um, small rodents, and these animals have, just as we have, uh, approximately uh, 200 or 300 causes of the common cold, which we have lived with for a long, long time. And so to us, they're just, oh, I have a cold. I'll feel a little bit not at my best for the next 2 or 3 days, and then I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the bats, the rats, the other small animals have viruses and bacteria that human beings have never encountered before.
Mm-hmm.
So we are very susceptible to them. That's one. And number two, except for situations in which planes are canceled and people coming from a high coronavirus country are quarantined for 14 days, people can go from, say, Johannesburg, South Africa to London in a matter of hours. People can go from all over most of the world to New York in a matter of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because people came from coronavirus infected countries that at one time New York was New York City was the hot spot of the world for coronavirus. Now, we have since been told that the infection rate for the state of New York has gone down to the point where we have the lowest infection rate of the whole 50 states in the United States.
Wow, that is amazing, and that was all due to the governor, Andrew Cuomo. He kind of was able to really get the message out, and people did respond.
Yes. Uh, Unfortunately, some of our political leaders, such as President Trump, who says he will never wear a face mask, um, do not set a good example as Governor Cuomo did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and uh, I wonder if someone in President Trump's family died of coronavirus, he would suddenly change his tune and decide it wasn't a hoax.
Mm-hmm. And he himself is obviously at very much at risk. Um, and it is interesting that there was a time when he was being tested for it. So it kind of runs counter to his claim that it was all a hoax. And it doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense to me. But
Well, a lot of things that President Trump said don't make a lot of logical sense. Um, Plus, he lies a lot, which I think is very dangerous in a powerful political leader, because he misleads the public and he never comes back and says, "Oh, what I said, I'll just make up something." last Tuesday was a lie. Um, but then I was a psychiatrist for decades, and he fits our definition of narcissistic personality disorder, which Narcissus was a mythical figure in ancient Greece. He was a young man who was very good looking, and once he looked at himself in a still pool of water and he thought, oh, how handsome I am, and fell in love with himself. And people who are narcissists don't ever really think about somebody else. Um, and some of you may remember there was a full page ad taken in the New York Times at the beginning of the coronavirus, which was signed by 750 physicians, all of them saying they believe that President Trump is a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
If I had been able to sign it, I didn't know about it before it appeared. If I had been able to sign it, I would have signed it too. But so President Trump, perforce, does not have much of a sense of the public good. I'm asking you, the viewer, and your family and friends to get ahead of where the president is and consider the, the good of a large number of people that we don't know, we don't have any relationship with, but nevertheless be kind to them
Mm-hmm.
and sit apart in any meeting and wear your face mask whenever you're out of the house and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds frequently.
Well, um, the 4th of July is people are going to be getting together, I believe. So this is a good thing to remember because a lot of families will try and get together, and some of them haven't seen each other for quite a while. So, and it's difficult, but it can be done. So I think this is a good thing to keep in mind. We don't want to harm our families, those we love. So. Are there any last thoughts?
I do hope we don't ever again elect another president who is an inveterate liar, who has a rally with 75,000 people packed in like sardines, and he doesn't care
Mm-hmm.
if a week or 10 days later some of those people die. Uh, we need a president who is compassionate and who understands the life of ordinary people and who is willing to set a good example by doing himself what the public health experts, are asking all of us to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I think that's I share your sentiment, and I sure hope that people, when they go to the polls, they think about that and make the choice that will help the greater good rather than a single person.
Yes. Um, so, as usual, I am asking for Mr. Barker, tell me, is the comments page set up yet?
Yes, when people see this, that will be set up. So we will be able to record people's comments, and they will be able to add their ideas for show ideas that we can discuss, and that will be done and up tomorrow, which is on Saturday. So when people see this, they'll be able to add their comments.
Because I enjoy your comments, and now that I have control of my website, I promise I will answer every comment. And I also would like you to think about it for a couple of minutes and maybe put a topic that I haven't discussed yet, or a point of view that you think is valid that I have not expressed. And this is a show that is made for you. Uh, it is not made for academic credit to me, because I don't get any.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not made to contradict anything that your psychiatric providers, for those of you who have some, may be telling you. It is made to help you navigate daily life. And I am asking you to please put on a face mask,
Mm-hmm.
and please practice social distancing, and wash your hands frequently. None of those things are difficult to do.
Right.
None of them cost an arm and a leg. Um, and if you get a cloth face mask, you can wash it and use it again.
Mm-hmm.
So, because if you get paper ones, you're supposed to change it every day, and that could end up being expensive.
Right. Yeah.
So, I like and love people. And one of the things that I like most about people is that if they're given the right information, they can change how they behave. And so I'm particularly asking you to do the few things that you're requested to do, so that we don't have 300,000 American deaths.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got to stop. Think about all the people who have lost a family member already, and how much grief they have to bear. Don't contribute to the next person's grief. Do what you're asked to do about the coronavirus.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Yes, thank you. We'll look forward to everyone's comments. Have a great weekend.
Bye bye.